Welcome to Superstitions, Traditions, and Definitions. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Carol. Very serious today.
Very serious.
Not really. Anyway, what are we doing today?
Today is Am I the Asshole?
No.
Historical edition.
Fabulous. What have we got? Are you going to surprise me?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Are you just jumping right in?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you?
It's up to you. You're steering the boat.
All right, we'll jump right in.
Okay.
All right.
Marvelous.
Ready?
Okay, now I am. Yes,
Okay.
let's go.
Am I the asshole for limiting the expansion of Minneapolis to preserve the weeds and spending my time protecting those weeds?
Okay.
On occasion, threatening a person or two with a machete.
Was she out with the machete to cut the weeds? Or was she just guarding the weeds with her machete?
She was guarding the weeds with her machete. She was serious about him.
Okay, I guess so.
Serious.
Sorry.
Are you going to read it?
No, I was looking at the top. I didn't know if you said weeds or reeds.
Weeds
With
a W.
Gotcha. All right, let's go.
All right.
Who are we talking about?
This is Eloise Butler.
Figured it was a woman. She's out there defending her weeds, not her weed.
Not her weed.
Not her weed.
Maybe there is one or two.
There probably is some
weed plants out there.
I bet so.
I don't know if they're native to
I guess I don't know either.
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay. All right, let's hear it. Let's hear your story.
Okay. I was born in Maine to a family who still used herbal healing.
Oh, you're all about this.
My aunt taught me the herbs and recipes used by our ancestors. I loved learning and gardening. In 1873, I graduated from Eastern State Normal School in Maine.
Normal school? Is that just what they called it, or is that the proper name?
That's the proper name. A normal school at this time was a teacher school.
Oh, okay.
Because the goal was...
I didn't know if we were normal Maine. You know, we're peculiar Missouri.
They didn't want peculiars. They called them normal schools.
You know, there's peculiar in Missouri.
There's peculiar everywhere.
Odd names for cities and townships and stuff. So I'm just trying to specify, get some background. Let's figure this out.
If I remember correctly, Eastern State was the first normal school in the U.S.
Why did they call it a normal school?
They focused on academics, but they also, a good part of the instruction for children in school was how to behave in society.
How to be normal?
Basically.
Okay, I gotcha.
And that's how it got its name.
Okay, good enough.
I think it was in like the 30s or 40s that they changed the name to teacher school.
Okay.
Or teacher college.
To be a little more specific and let us all know what's going on there.
Yeah. I mean, at this time, everybody knew it was.
I didn't know.
Normal. Well, you didn't live in 1873 either.
I really didn't.
If you did, you would have known.
I'd be dead by now.
You would.
We wouldn't be friends. No, you can't have dead friends.
And
don't walk by and whistle. Although that was our last episode that we talked about.
It was.
That wasn't Am I the Asshole, but you know.
That was superstitious.
Right on. Anyway,
okay.
Let's hear it.
So she's set to combine my two loves in a career that would benefit future generations.
Okay.
My family left Maine and settled in Indiana. I followed, but my calling led me to Minneapolis. I started teaching botany here in 1874. While teaching, I attended classes at the University of Minnesota, studying my beloved plants, learning all I could about those native to my new home. I joined the Gray Memorial Botanical Chapter and took botany trips to exotic places like Jamaica.
Oh.
Watching my new hometown thrive and grow was exciting, but I realized the native habitat was disappearing with every building going up.
Sure.
There was a small park established in the area, teeming with a myriad of native plants, trees, a bog, fern glens. It was perfect for a wild botanical garden.
Even had a bog.
It even had a bog.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
One doesn't just come across bogs.
No,
not usually.
Not usually, but there was one here.
Marvelous.
It was close to the great Medicine Spring, with hills and upland. I convinced the park board to set aside a portion for our I know I missed a page. For our botanical garden.
You'll catch it later.
Yeah. I became the self-appointed guardian of this wonderful space. Soon, even the newspaper was noticing my devotion to it, dubbing me the mother of the garden.
Mother of the garden. That's kind of a cool title.
Mm-hmm. It is. It was open to the public so everyone could enjoy the beauty. It was the first natural wildflower garden in the U.S.
Oh.
In 1911, when I retired from teaching, I considered going back to Maine, but the garden club convinced the mayor and park board to appoint me curator of the garden and allow me to introduce other plants native to the state to the area.
Cool.
I was to be paid $60 a month for 7 months each year. I published many works about the native plants in the garden, including a weekly article in the Sunday Minneapolis Tribune. I gave tours of the garden and lectures. I sourced plants from all over the state. The total acquisition of the native plants took 5 years. I introduced 262 new plants to the area in that time.
From the state or?
Just the state.
From surrounding, okay.
All over the state.
So she collected it and brought it all.
Yes. She wanted her garden to be a little mini ecosystem that represented the entire state of Minnesota.
Cool. I don't know if maybe she traveled to Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin.
No,
she didn't.
No.
She just kept.
She worked.
Local.
Yeah, she just kept local. She worked during spring, summer, fall, and then would go home to Maine during the winter
when nothing grows.
When nothing grows,
when
and she didn't
dormant.
really need to tend and all of that stuff.
Well,
she cool. would go home to Maine, but she never brought anything from Maine that wasn't naturally grown in Minnesota. She wanted it to just be Minnesota.
Well, it's too bad we don't. I mean, and maybe we do have that in all states.
Possibly. I don't know.
I don't either.
I know this one is still around.
Interesting.
I continued to introduce new plants throughout my 2 years of the curating. I continued to introduce new plants throughout my 21 years of curating, but not at the rate as the first 5.
I bet not.
By 1924, the garden had grown to 25 acres.
Wow.
And people, primarily hunters, were trampling through the garden.
Oh, it probably pissed her off.
Very much.
Okay. Gotcha.
After begging the park department to put up a fence and being ignored, I put the fence up myself.
As you would.
Mm-hmm. With the fence and trails throughout, it was still difficult to keep visitors off the plants. I was constantly yelling at them to stay on the path.
On the path. Keep off my grass.
Mm-hmm.
Stay off my lawn.
Pretty much.
Gotcha. Yeah. Maybe that's where that originated.
I found they took me more seriously when I was holding my machete.
As you would.
As one would.
That's when I get people to listen to me, is when I'm holding a great big freaking knife.
Yep. You tend to listen more.
Sharpening it in front of them menacingly.
Probably.
Hey, eat it. That's cool.
So, she was a neat little woman.
You know, what happened is she probably said it, and then she said it, and she said it, and she said it. And then, like mothers do, she's like, you know what? Okay, I've had it. Mm-hmm. Nobody pays attention until I scream and hold a big knife.
So this park was a big deal. There were some newspaper articles all over about it.
I'm sure.
And locals would write. And there are record of locals writing about how much they loved it, except for the woman that was harassing them. And it was well known. You stayed on the path. That was written about a lot.
Manners.
Stay on the path. Don't walk on the plants.
And don't eat them.
Don't eat them.
Don't, litter.
She actually discovered new species.
Really?
Of moss.
I bet she was very proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
They're named after her now.
Really?
She discovered three new species of moss that is named after her. This park still exists, and it is now called the Eloise Butler Botanical Conservatory.
Ooh, fancy.
And bird watching and plant and bird conservatory. She really liked birds.
Well, she seems very earthy. Seemed that she would have been very earthy.
So that was also.
I doubt she's still around.
No, she's not. One of her complaints was hunters were shooting the birds in the area. So.
As one does when one hunts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She was not happy about that.
So she got her machete and she was protecting the birds.
And her little fence. She built that fence herself,
trooper. And a fence.
Was it like
not split rail? Was it? You have no idea?
No idea.
I could see it being like, tall.
I'm sure it was. Probably electrocuted.
Probably. I mean,
she probably patented the electrocuting fence.
She could have come up with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I'll keep them out of here.
That's right.
Those dirty hunters.
So.
And tourists stomping through my stuff. I have no respect. Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
She worked on this until the day she died.
No kidding.
Actually, the day she died, she had just come back from Maine.
Okay.
There was a man there that helped her, a little handyman kind of guy.
Okay.
At this point, she wasn't able to.
She was probably quite old by then.
Quite old. Like she couldn't carry the things back and forth from her home, which was that she rented right next to the park.
Right.
So he would come over every morning and walk with her.
Aw.
He had come and got her. She had just got back from Maine. Okay. Not Boston, from Maine.
They're East Coast.
Yeah.
I get you.
Had gone to check on everything, had gone home the next morning for her second trip back. He came and got her. They made it about halfway and she started feeling sick. So they turned around and walked back to the house. She sat down on the couch. She rented from a really good friend of hers a room. And he got her and they kind of cared for her and she passed away the next day.
Quick?
Yeah. She had.
Relatively.
Yeah. She had some neurological, like neuropathy kind of issues. Not neurological, but they are. But
yeah, I got you.
Not what typically is thought of.
No.
She also had fallen and broken a hip at one point.
Ouch.
Anyway, so she wasn't in the best of health, and she was old. She was in her 80s, I believe.
Yeah.
So
probably time for her to stop crawling through the garden.
Yeah. But this was the love of her life.
Sure.
She spent every moment.
I don't suppose she was buried there.
No. Actually, she was cremated and her ashes were spread there.
That's some good symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
Not cemetery.
Not cemetery. Symmetry. But yeah, she was cremated. That was what she wanted. She wanted to be cremated and her ashes spread in.
I'm sure her ashes help things grow.
I'm sure they do. She's still caring for it.
Yep.
So,
interesting. Okay. What else you got?
That is the extent of it.
Okay. So Minnesota gets cold.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a problem?
So does Maine.
Well, I know, but tickle. I'm just talking about her plants that she, brought from all over the state. Did she have to do any winterizing, or did she just leave it all to itself?
She left it all to itself.
Okay. That's what I did in Iowa. I didn't have to, because of course it's all hardy and is used to that environment and stuff. But sometimes, you have things that die out and don't come back.
Yeah, no, this was all native.
Mm-hmm.
So it was acclimated to the weather and the conditions there.
Gotcha.
And it will she did have to thin things out.
Sure.
There were some things that she introduced to this particular area that was native to Minnesota, but not necessarily here.
Right.
That kind of tried to take
over. She traveled around and
yes,
went and found other stuff and brought it back with her.
Yes. She also had a pond installed.
Aw.
in there.
Is that where the bog comes in?
No, the bog was natural.
And she just built around the bog.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
No, there was a natural bog, and then she built up a pond to introduce.
Interesting. Did she dig it herself?
I'm sure she did not.
Oh,
I mean,
I was going to say, I bet she did.
Maybe she did.
Get out there with her shovel. She built
just
the fence.
built her own.
She built the fence. Why wouldn't she build a pond?
She actually had it installed.
Had the pond installed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I'm a little disappointed.
I know. Maybe she is the asshole after all.
Maybe she didn't even dig her own pond.
Dig her own pond. That's right.
How can I mean, come on now. If you're going to build the fence, dig the pond.
True.
Dig the pond.
The lady that she rented the room from that she stayed with when
Mhm.
she was there ended up taking over.
Oh, really?
Because she loved it so much, and it was a way to honor her.
Aw.
So she took over being the curator of it. It's still open today.
Yay.
You can go visit.
How interesting.
Stay off the grass. Stay on the
Path.
trail. Stay on the path.
Stay on the path. Of course.
Serious about it.
That's why we have sidewalks and things.
Right.
Stay off people's yards.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to smash it.
Mm-mm. No.
Cool.
All right. So what do you think?
I'm going to say she's not the asshole just because I'm all about gardening.
Me too. She's definitely not the asshole. Comes from a long line of cunning folk.
Of what?
Of healers.
Oh.
Of herbal healers.
Gotcha.
Witches.
Cunning.
Cunning folk.
That's what I thought you said, and I was thinking clever. Did she have to be clever?
I mean, to be able, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, to have
That's
that
not
mastery.
how you meant it, though.
No.
But I get it. Okay.
No, there was a distinction for a long time between a cunning folk and a witch.
Okay.
Witch was more incantations and old ways, whereas cunning folk they did the herbal things that witches did, and they used the talisman and things like that. But as far as incantations, and theirs was more specifically for healing and protection as opposed to blessings and curses. And once the witch trials and all of that stuff started, the distinction between the two was wiped out.
I'll bet so.
It was one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, but up until that point, there was a distinction between a cunning folk or a cunning woman and a witch.
I've never heard cunning woman.
That's because we decided to get rid of all of them and wiped them all out. Pretended they were witches and hung them as well.
Ouch.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
King James.
Yep.
King James and his crazy.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he was convinced that Scottish witches put a curse on him, and so he was determined to...
Why did he think they did that? What was wrong with him? Insomnia?
Probably.
Impotence? Somebody else's fault?
Somebody else's fault. Actually, he thought that because...
Was he a hemophiliac?
No.
Was he a bleeder? And
he
wasn't. Their fault?
One of them said.
Oh, one of them told him? Okay, well, that's fun.
And he was mad about it. That it was actually, they were on a ship.
Okay. What kind of ship?
I don't
know. Like a cruise ship?
I mean, essentially, they were
they
all
like rowing across the...
No, he and his person, wife, mistress, I'm not sure which, were leaving one area, headed back home.
Okay.
And he angered a Scottish woman who claimed to be a witch and cursed him, and
she probably wasn't at all, but then she changed the course of history.
And she
Look
did.
what you've done.
So
now that's all these dead people. Your fault.
Yeah, that was prior to getting on the boat. Once they got on the boat, there was troubles on the water, and they nearly didn't make it. And
so he decided he was cursed.
So he decided she really was a witch, and she cursed him. And
did he have bad luck the rest of his life? Did he have somebody break this curse? What are we talking about here?
I don't know. He just was not about letting them live.
Gotcha.
I mean, he wrote the executive order that if they are found guilty of capital witchcraft, that they are to be executed. So if somebody died as a result of something you said or did, It was capital witchcraft.
Just because.
Just because, whether coincidence or not, that was a lot of the proof.
It sounds like it might be coincidental if I had to guess.
Like in the Pendle witch trials, they confessed. They were cunning folk.
Mm-hmm.
They confessed to witchcraft. And neighbors would come in, well, she didn't like me and then my calf died.
Oh.
And so that made it a capital offense.
Gotcha.
And it was just ridiculousness.
Yeah. That just spun out of control.
It spun out of control. Yep.
All right. I'm going to say she's not the asshole. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to stand on that.
I like it.
Yeah.
I love that they were in Maine. Their family is from Maine, lived in Maine, managed to make it through the Salem witch trials and, all of that.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just in Salem.
Probably because she was gone most of the year.
Well, this is long after. So her life is about 200 years.
After that?
After the witches. Because they're in 1873.
You're talking about her ancestors.
Her ancestors, for the herbs and knowledge to have been passed down to her.
Okay.
They had to have somehow.
Were they originally from Maine? Or did they travel into Maine?
No, they were originally from.
Maybe people were scared of them and just decided not to mess with it.
And it could be that they really saw the value of having a herbal healer in the area.
That would take some foresight.
It would. But there were those folks that did. Like, no, she made me a cough medicine and now I ain't coughing. So
I feel much better now. We're going to keep her.
Yeah.
We're going to keep her. Right on. Okay.
So they had to have been respected.
Yeah.
To have avoided execution.
Yeah.
To be able to pass their.
And been wily about it.
To have been able to pass 200 years later, 250 years later.
To create a garden.
To create a garden and know the herbs and the recipes and the healing and all of that stuff. So that, I thought that was neat.
That's pretty cool. Yep. Interesting.
All right. So is she the asshole?
No.
Not the asshole.
No.
She's not the asshole.
No.
Chase those people off with the machete, lady.
Just
do what you
protective
gotta do.
of her work.
That's right.
As are we all.
That's right.
I think that's all we got.
That's all we got. And we agree she's not the asshole.
Not.
If you were on the grass, you deserve to be chased around with a machete.
Don't make me.
So there. All right. Come back on Saturdays for Am I the Asshole Historical Edition.
Yes.
And Tuesdays for Superstitions.
Do it.
All the time.
Yes.
Every week.
Join us.
It's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
I laugh a lot.
I do too.
Yay.
Not right now because I don't feel good.
You're very serious. Yes. Yes, I know. It'll be okay.
But usually I do.
Usually you do.
All right.
Okay.
Leave us a comment. Share. Tell your friends.
All your friends.
Every one of them.
If you don't have friends, go to the grocery store.
And tell those people.
Just tell people you see. In the meat section.
In the meat section.
Why not?
Or the vegetables.
Yeah, that too.
We like people who like vegetables.
We do.
All right.
And meat.
And meat.
Yeah, we like meat.
Okay.
All right, cool. Until next time.
She loves you.
I do.
I have a fondness.
She does.